There are 8 phases to the moon cycle. The moon moves through these periods. The fact that women are so strongly connected to the moon, more so than anyone else. And it's because we have our own lunar cycle. We have our own moon cycle that moves us through the cycle. So it's so important for us to be listening to ourselves and making note about what it is that we need to be doing for ourselves.
So I find it's a really good time for releasing things and also calling in things and rebalancing. So when that anxiety is coming up and rearing its head so high, it's a good time to actually have that internal reflection and learning more about yourself in that way.
Learning myself to stop fighting the cycles and to really tune in and work with the moon. And as hard as it is in society, we're just taught to just push and go. Even as women with our own menstrual cycles, we're not meant to be pushing all of the time.
Anytime I had anxiety, all I needed to do was look up, and it would have the opposite effect on me. It would calm me down. There was something so calming about her presence being there with me every night as my world was flipped and turned upside down, topsy-turvy.
And awareness is power. When we understand that we're not alone, that there's this collective consciousness that unites us all and that we're all going through something similar, it can be very centering for the body and really quite calming.
Hey everyone, it's Sophia from Sacred You. Thank you so much for being here. A quick message before we dive into today's discussion. You may have been watching our videos, but have not had a chance to hit that subscribe button. So if you have gained value from our conversations, from our channel, it would be so appreciated for us if you would hit that subscribe button below right now and even give us a like. What that means is not only does it allow us to grow our subscriber base, but it also allows us to bring in even more guests for you to listen to. And you will be one of the first ones to be notified. So please hit that subscribe button and let's get started on today's wonderful panel discussion. Welcome to today's wonderful Ignite Your Inner Power Conversations That Count panel discussion, greatly hosted by Sacred You. I am Sophia Soul from Sacred You, but more importantly, I'm here to introduce our beautiful panel, our wonderful topic for today of when anxiety whispers, healing with moon medicine and ancient wisdom. And the perfect facilitator is the beautiful Gigato Migwan Quay, otherwise known as Rollie, who's the host of our Moon Medicine Circle Tribe. And Rollie is here today to facilitate this wonderful panel with these amazing women who have given up an hour of their time. So thank you so much, Rollie. I'm going to hand it over to you. I'll be here in the background listening to all this amazing wisdom and taking down notes, and I will be back at the end. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks so much, Sophia. So what I want to do is I want to introduce our panelists. So I'm going to start off with Catherine. And so Catherine, I'm going to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are.
Thanks, Rollie. So I'm Catherine Crestani. So I am a leadership coach in transition. We're always evolving, right? An intuitive healer. I have a podcast, an author, and I'm also a speaker. And I really focus on empowering souls to come back to themselves so that they can live their best lives, whether it's in business, family, or in health, but they all need to come and play a part together. And I'm really excited to share some of how the moon has impacted my life. So thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful. So next we're going to go with Allison or Alessandra. I said that wrong. That's why we introduce ourselves.
That's fine, and Ali works as well. But thank you. I'm Priestess Alessandra Moon, founder of Raven Moon Academy. I'm an author And essentially, I help people to transform their lives from tragic to magic. And Carney is also one of my students who you'll hear from soon. So thank you for having me.
Beautiful. And Tywanah?
Hello, everyone. I'm Tywanah EVETTE. I am a best-selling author, inspirational speaker. I'm also a coach for women, helping them rise into their power. And I'm excited to talk about the moon because I sat under her for 3 straight years all night.
Beautiful. And Carney?
My name's Carney. I'm a complex trauma therapist and personal counsellor, Reiki master. I've published a few pieces of writing, and most of my work revolves around shadow whispering and soul whispering and helping people learn to reclaim the parts of self so that they can be as whole as.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Carney. I'm so excited that everybody's here. As Sophia had said, is that I host the Moon Medicine Circle through Sacred You, but I also I work with women with anxiety, which is why this is that perfect conversation, perfect timing. And here I am in the background trying to log in for this anxiety session. Only to be full of anxiety. And so I just want to be able to honor all of us and our time and our space. And I am looking forward to the conversations that we're going to be having around all of this. So the first question that I have is, how has your understanding of Grandmother Moon's energy shifted your approach to anxiety? And what patterns have you noticed in your clients or yourselves during different lunar phases? So we'll start with Catherine.
Thanks, Rollie. I've been thinking about this question. So, first of all, I used to work with children. I will work with them again, but as a speech therapist. And every full moon, sure enough, you would have kids come in, heightened anxiety, bouncing off the walls. The parents are like, "What is going on?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's a full moon." And it would happen every single time, to the point that my clients' parents would start to come in when their kids were a bit crazier and go, "Is it a full moon? Please tell me it's a full moon." So helping parents understand that, but also to see that, those cycles that happen, and also understanding what happens to our bodies, which I explain a lot to my clients. When the full moon comes, it does actually pull parasites out of us, and it pulls everything and makes everything bigger. And there's so many people I've worked with, and even my husband, he was in security and worked at a hotel, and he said whenever it was a full moon, they actually closed their books because they didn't want anyone walking in, because everyone's energy was so heightened. And I guess in terms of how that relates to me and anxiety, it comes back to understanding when everything feels really heightened and big. Sometimes the best thing you can do is look in the sky and see where the moon is at, but also check in with yourself and go, okay, what is happening right now? And how is Grandmother Moon coming in to shift energy? And why is this such a big moon for me? Or what's it causing to reflect? So I find it's a really good time for releasing things and also calling in things and rebalancing. So when that anxiety is coming up, especially my client, when that anxiety is coming up and rearing its head so high, it's a good time to actually have that internal reflection and learning more about yourself in that way.
Thanks so much, Catherine. And so, Ali?
Yeah, I completely agree. A lot of my work prior to teaching magic, witchcraft, and my priestessing work was in mental health. And same deal, but not just the full moon, even the new moon. I think every cycle affects us in different ways, and we can get that overwhelm and fogginess as well with the new moon, but it's not as easy to recognize. But I think learning myself to stop fighting the cycles and to really tune in and work with the moon. And as hard as it is in society, we're just taught to just push and go. Even as women with our own menstrual cycles, we're not meant to be pushing all of the time, but we have to. And so I guess trying to find that balance between honoring our bodies, honoring the energies, and working in with society. It's difficult, but it makes such big difference. And with my students, one of the first courses that I did with one of our other panelists, Carney, we actually would do an astrology update and talk about the moon and the planets at the start of class. And without fail, every time everybody would just be, oh my God, that's what's going on. Oh, that's why. And it's not just from a woo-woo perspective, but from a scientific perspective, as Catherine was saying about it, pulling the parasites out, and it affects water. We are such a huge percentage of water and lymph and other fluids. So just as it affects the tides, it's going to affect us. But yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And Tywanah?
Grandmother Moon and my anxiety. When I started going through my spiritual awakening, that time where you can't sleep, it doesn't matter. Once it's dark, you cannot sleep to save your soul. My sister would find me sitting outside, staring up at the moon until sunrise. And anytime I had anxiety, all I needed to do was look up, and it would have the opposite effect on me. It would calm me down. There was something so calming about her presence being there with me every night as my world was flipped and turned upside down, topsy-turvy. In my clients, that's a whole nother story. We do look at the moon cycles and try to prepare to make sure that they're not anxious about any work that I give them or anything like that. And we celebrate the moon. We celebrate her. She's something to be celebrated, honored, and treasured. Women, especially, we are so connected to that energy. So whether it's the new moon and I'm sitting outside doing my poo stuff to bring in nice, good things, or, the full moon and I'm outside doing my woo stuff to get things out of my life, I've learned to honor her cycles and flow with them.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And Carney, what about you?
Thank you, Rollie. Probably, if I look back, the most profound experience I've had with the moon would have been when I first met a South American shaman 27 years ago and was on retreat with him up in Cajamarca in the Andes. And we got to do ceremony in an ancient Inca pool by full moon. And I had never experienced anything like it. My entire body was in Kundalini overflow with electricity pouring through it for about 5 hours. And I've walked away from that and went, whoa, there's something really profound about this. As Catherine said, I've worked as a school teacher for over 40 years now. There is definitely something in children being affected by the moon. And traditionally, what do you call them? Asylums and hospitals used to put extra staff on during that period of time. But I also had a girlfriend who, around full moon, would literally get water on the back of her brain. She would have an area at the base of the spine around the reptilian brain that would just inflame substantially. I've had experience of that too, so that's really quite interesting as well. I've worked with moon cycles now and run moon circles for 10 years. And I think awareness is probably the biggest key in. The more explicitly you talk about the different moon cycles, I predominantly focus on full moon and new moon, the releasing capacity and the manifesting capacity. But the more you can bring in the different archetypes of the moon in relation to the zodiacs, the greater you can assist people to understand what's going on in their life. And awareness is power. When we understand that we're not alone, that there's this collective consciousness that unites us all and that we're all going through something similar, it can be very centering for the body and really quite calming. That's probably the main area that I would use it, is bringing awareness into the body and then using that awareness to communicate with both the moon itself and also with the body. So I've got, at the moment, we actually have the situation with a cat that's about to transition, or so it appears. And so I'm working very much with the Libra moon energy at the moment around relationships and nurturing and kindness and compassion. Yeah, so it's really quite interesting. The more aware you have, the more empowered you are from a knowledge point of view, the bigger the impact. That said, that one experience of having no knowledge and having my mindset completely blown away, I think that was a big wake-up call for me too. And I thought, oh yeah, there's something really big in this. So I have to explore this a little bit more. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thanks, Kearney. And I love the fact that it's been mentioned that there's like more than just the new moon and the full moon. That's predominantly what most people are aware of because it's like full darkness or full brightness. And but there are 8 phases to the moon cycle. Granted, the moon moves through these periods. And so one of the other things that was mentioned is the fact that that women are so strongly connected to the moon, more so than anyone else. And it's because we have our own lunar cycle, we have our own moon cycle that moves us through the cycle. So we've got the global where everybody moves through everything all at the same time, but then we all have our own personal cycles that we move through. And even for those of us who are no longer cycling, we still have a cycle and a pattern that we follow. And it's so important for us to be listening to ourselves and making note about what it is that we need to be doing for ourselves. So a really good example is yesterday I was tired, and just being able to just listen to that and just taking naps, going to bed early, making sure that I am replenishing myself so that I can take on the rest of this week is really important for us to be able to do, because life is very busy. And so we can't always just follow our own cycles, because we still have to get to appointments. We still have to get to all the things that we need to be doing. And so it's so important for us to be able to remember to listen to what is it that our bodies are telling us. And if it's telling us to slow down, then we need to listen. And so that is one way of being able to help with those, with being able to tap into those cycles. So the next question is, could you share a transformative moment from your personal or professional journey where moon medicine provided healing during anxiety that other approaches couldn't address? Catherine, we'll start with you again.
Yeah, so I guess it's funny you were talking about cycles, because this is what happened with me. So I was reading a book about moons, moon cycles and moon medicine, and then it was talking about how women's cycles so strongly connected to the moon. And then I questioned, I was like, is my cycle meant to be connected to the full moon? And then Spirit, doing what Spirit does, shifted my cycle so it was aligned with the full moon. And then I was reading something else. I thought, hang on, I was born on a new moon. Maybe it should be aligned with the new moon. So then it actually shifted it the other way. And what it actually gave me, yeah, this is Spirit playing with me. So then what it actually gave me was this perspective of how I felt during each cycle. And I actually was at the lowest energy and feeling the most anxious when my cycle was in line with the new moon, in compared with the full moon, where I barely felt a blip on the radar. There might be a little bit of symptoms and things like that. And so once I realized that comparison, Spirit then helped me shift my cycle back to the full moon so that I could actually feel more aligned with it. And it was funny because this full moon just come, because I'm Cancer Sun, Cancer Moon. So it was very much like a really big cycle coming up. My period actually came early. And I was like, oh, what's this about? And they're like, because you couldn't handle that on top of Mercury retrograde and the moons and your birthday and everything else. And I was like, thank you. So just being aware of how in tune we are, especially if you don't want to fall pregnant, or you're constantly trying to stay, like if you want to fall pregnant even, and being in tune with your cycle, that anxiety that it gets taken away when you're in true alignment with the moon phases in your life is such a big thing that I could only learn from actually going through that and having my menstrual cycle shift through the moon. There was no way anyone else could have described that to me or explained it. And for someone else, they might be the complete opposite, because they might, more energetic when their menstrual cycles align with the new moon. So it really comes back to how you experience that in your own body. And coming back to circling back to anxiety, for me, it takes the anxiety away of knowing when my cycle is going to come, because I've realigned myself with how my body should be flowing. And B, it's also knowing that, okay, this is an alignment for my body at the best possible time, so that it's not heightened emotions, it's not heightened hormones, and it's not that heightened anxiety that can come with that when everything feels really high and at a higher level.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Allie?
That's amazing, Catherine. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's awesome. Okay, I honestly have so many examples I could give, but just quickly, I guess, when I was younger, basically my whole life from preteen on, I suffered from extreme depression, anxiety, all of the mental health illness diagnoses, which turned out to not actually be that anyway. But it was getting off all of those poisons, getting in tune with myself, and really going deep into my witchcraft, spirituality, and working with the moon that helped me to break free from all of the mental illness symptoms. And in my work, I've actually helped others do the same thing. And of course, along with shadow work and other kinds of work, but it is just so profound. And things like moon bathing works with the parasympathetic nervous system. It calms us down. It's just, it really is magical. But the night before my mum passed away was a lunar eclipse. And I was her full-time carer. I was helping her through that transition as nurse, carer, priestess, all of the things. But at this point, I was really struggling because I think unconsciously I could feel that was coming. And I went out that night and I was just looking and watching the eclipse and trying to film it for her. And the shift from that, I can't even really put it into words, but there was just this knowing, this shift, this healing from seeing these changes, these transitions. And I think I've always done a little bit of death work, both officially and unofficially. But from that moment, it changed everything in relation to how I deal with emotions, death work, transitions. It was just so unbelievably profound that I can't even put into words. Just incredible. But yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks so much for sharing that moment, Allie. And Tywanah, what about you?
Like I told you, I spent 3 years sitting under the moon during my spiritual awakening, and mine actually started on a psychiatric unit where I had tried to take my life. So moving in with, leaving my state that I lived in and moving states, moving in with my sister. My sister would always ask me, "Why are you awake?" And I would tell her, "The moon is calling me." And she'd look at me like, "Yeah, maybe you need to go back to where you came from." But I could see it outside my window, and it was literally like no matter what phase it was, I could hear it calling me. And I did a lot of scrying underneath the moon. And when I say 3 years, I'm talking about every single night I was outside for 3 years. I live in Washington, D.C. It's freezing here. I bought a Canada Goose coat and a heated blanket, and I'd be sitting outside scrying underneath my heated blanket because she was calling me. She was calling me home to myself. That's what she was doing. She was bringing me to my magic. She was bringing me into my high priestesshood. So the moon is so important to me. And when I do have times where I may feel anxious, I just go back to her and I will leave my apartment and walk around my neighborhood and look for her. And once I see her, I know everything's going to be okay.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that that personal part of yourself, Tywanah. Carney, what about you?
I got so engrossed in what you were saying, I forgot I was coming next. Thank you, Tywanah. That was beautiful. For me, in my personal practice, the moon is one of the resources I use for shadow work a lot because, particularly full moon, when we're out in the full moon bathing, the full moon can actually infiltrate every single cell in the body and put a spotlight on what needs to come to the surface to be cleared and to be released and to be cleansed. And so that's one of the aspects that I use very intensely. I do a lot of work with hypnoscripts as well too, and recently I did a beautiful meditation for the Cancer full moon with a circle of sacred crabs and a pearl, and a lot of the vulnerabilities that people were feeling that they were quite anxious about at the time were released into this sacred pearl. I got a lot of really good feedback from it later by people telling me how powerful that was. The most profound experience, though, that I've had with the moon, other than being in the pool in Peru, was I remember a time when an ex-partner and I had decided to separate. And we were both going to the same party, but his behaviour had caused me to put a line in the sand. And it was a Libran full moon. I'm a Libran. Anyway, we had a lovely time at the party, came home, and it was a time for me of the moon speaking to me very profoundly too. I remember looking at this moon and just falling in love with it. Like it was as though she was speaking to me really, really profoundly. I ended up with a son at 40 as a result of that moon. And I actually thought I was going insane because it never crossed my mind that at 40 I would have another child. But when I actually found out that I wasn't insane, I was just pregnant, that was incredibly exciting. Look, it just opened up such, I want to say, so I have the most incredible child that was born from that moon. And it's the one moon that I will never, ever forget. I can even still visualize it now in my mind. It was so profound. And the life changes it facilitated were pretty profound too. Yeah, so that was really cool. And I think I hadn't even remembered that until I heard you talk, Twynie, and then I'm like, oh, wow, that's right. That was that moon.
That is so beautiful. What an experience that would be. And so, one of the things that I have noticed with working, so my background is in addiction and mental health, as Rollie had shared about her own professional experience. But prior to that, at the age of 6, I was diagnosed with anxiety. And so having to work with that over the years has been something that has been really helpful. And so again, it's those tides and waves. And so when my anxiety is coming up, typically it's because I'm not listening to my own body and my own wisdom of what it is that I need to be doing and how I need to be moving forward and addressing those kinds of things. And so I was not institutionalized as Tywanah was, but I did have that experience of my own mental breakdown where I became very suicidal after having worked in the field for such a long time. It was like, oh, okay, now I know exactly how my clients have felt, like that desperation and that it's not good. And so I was off work for a period of 9 months, unable to work while I was actually working through my own healing and using all the tools and techniques that I had used in the field with clients. But it was like being able to follow patterns and the cycles and knowing all the different things is has actually helped me heal. And that is one of the things that I do with my clients is like having them examine, so where are things at, what is it that's going on? And it doesn't matter if we're in a full moon, we might be experiencing a first quarter moon energy versus, or it could be that we're in that waning crescent moon phase. Whatever it is, just take a look at what is going on within ourselves as to whether or not which phase is it that we should be working in. So thank you very much, ladies, for sharing that. So the next question is, today we're experiencing Libra moon energy, which emphasizes balance. And Carney actually spoke about the Libra moon energy that she's working with right now with this transition. So what moon aligned practices have you found most effective for restoring emotional equilibrium during anxious time? We'll start with you again, Catherine.
Yeah, great question, Rolly. There's it's just like the default things that I go to all the time anyway. So when I'm feeling really anxious, I go hug a tree. I am the person that you will find hugging a tree, barefoot in nature. I got my tree behind me. These it's just really being really connected, or even that people talk about it with cacao, but you can do it with any drink, making a cup of tea and actually putting that intention in it that I'm doing this to honor me and to serve me. But I'm very aware of like moons, because when the energy gets really high, then I'll start to journal a lot more, or I'll channel a lot more. But also I'll use it for like those burning ceremonies, right? So writing down those things that I no longer want in my life and burning them away, but also writing into intention what I want to keep, having that balance and replacing that energy. So I find they're like powerful practices to do at any time. But it's funny that that it's like a Libra moon at the moment, emphasizing balance, because I am actually rebalancing a lot of energies in my life right now, from sacking a realtor to get a new realtor, like all these things. Because even though we're in Mercury retrograde, where people get so afraid to make decisions, it's not about being passive in your life. It's actually just being more active and more aware of, okay, I need to triple check a contract, or I need to do this. It's a time for reflecting and going into yourself. When you have this Libra moon energy to rebalance, it's still a time to take action, right? And move forward, but know that shadow's kind of happening, or the retrogrades happening at the same time. So you can emphasize, maybe I need to rebalance this part of my life. And that is where the Mercury retrograde shining that light. And I can use the energy of the Libra moon to rebalance. So I find that is like a really powerful thing you can do. And especially when that anxiety is coming up, it's normally a sign that you're not in alignment with yourself, or there's too much going on that you don't understand. So any practice that you can have to come back to yourself. And even if it's meditation, and I don't like using meditation because so many people, it's been so conditioned to think it's you sit there for hours in silence going which it definitely isn't that. It's about finding that space to come back to yourself. And for me, that's going into nature, or sitting with my cup of tea looking into nature, or being by the beach or something like that. They're practices that I use that I know will help me reground and help me come back into myself, so I'm not in that anxiety and heightened state.
Beautiful. I love that. And it's that reminder of something as simple as going to hug the tree, right? So that is really it. So, Allie, what about you?
Yeah, I love that. I'm a tree hugger as well. Often I'll ask the tree to take what I don't need and heal me. But I think, especially with the Libra moon, I have a Libra moon. I'm Libra sun and moon. I think Catherine was Cancer sun and moon. Beauty and things like gorgeous baths with crystals, and just enjoying that luxury, even if I myself am in a shitty house at the moment, but you can still take that time to surround yourself with things that make you feel good. So big on ritual. So ritualizing that, chanting the rhythmic mantras and even songs, just that repetition under moonlight will shift our brain into that theta state. And it is just so healing and calming when we are in that anxious energy. I actually did a video the other day about my anxiety and how I hadn't felt so stressed and anxious for many years, and I was really struggling with it. And talking to the beautiful Carney was a huge help. But yeah, it was just coming back to what made me feel good and ritualizing things, getting up in the morning. And I think, as Catherine said, enchanting my tea, setting that intention, doing the burning and the releasing, and going out in nature, spending time with animals. I'm the crazy bird lady. I have all the birds of the suburb just hang out with me. And so things like that, just making the everyday sacred, I think is beautiful. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Allie. And Tywanah?
I love that you pointed out, ooh, sacred rituals and something as simple as a bath, because sitting in a salt bath for me when tensions may be arising or whatever. It's one of, and I have different colored candles and I use them for the different goddesses and things like that. And I place them safely by the sink and just ask them to be with me and to help me in that moment. And I will speak out loud and sing or chant, like you said, or whatever feels like it needs to come up and out is what I do while I'm grounded in that beautiful, warm, luxurious salt water with herbs and different oils and things like that. It really is important. Rituals are there for a reason. One of the things I do every single morning, and this may sound completely crazy to some people, but after I serve my ancestors their coffee and their tea, I pour mine and I just put a little sprinkle of cinnamon and I chant as I stir it clockwise. I chant what I want, but that brings me peace. It calms me down for the morning so that when I come and sit at my desk, I'm not sitting here, I don't want to do this. I don't want to see this client today or something like that. It's that simple. And we as women need to get back to our rituals, get back to home. And I love what you said, Catherine, and you're going to experience this at my summit, where meditation is not just the silence and the om. I follow a beautiful high priestess practitioner on TikTok. We've become friends. And she does meditation through music, and honey, the release that comes out of your body after spending 45 minutes with her, with this music as she's spewing forth beautiful affirmations, you just feel so electrified and empowered. You forget that anything was wrong. So, yes, meditation is not just sitting quiet. Yes, that is a form of meditation, but sometimes it's dancing in your living room like a 10-year-old.
Yep.
So those are my two takes, bouncing off of what Priestess Ali said and what Catherine said.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And Carney, what about you?
Awesome. I've already shared what's going down for us here with the Libra full moon at the moment. But it's been interesting because I did do your standard meditation of going into myself this morning after my cacao on the porch practice, because that's my daily ritual. Cacao on the porch at sunrise. And I sit there and I always say, she's come alive. And I just feel this kind of a surge go all through me as I'm saying that. So that's my daily ritual. And I then went into quite a deep meditation in the theta state. And I found myself on my front porch in deep meditation, cutting roses and cutting blackberries up. And I thought, oh, that's really weird. Like, why am I doing that? And I had this awareness that I had to go inside and get shoes on. So it was called lucid dreaming kind of thing. Anyway, I then came quickly out of the meditation and there was a message from my friend in Canada who is an extreme gardener, just saying, hey, look, we've got to catch up. And I just went, whoa. This is the Libran relationship connection, because she's the one who is an animal whisperer who will talk to the cat through the transition. And I just went, oh my gosh, this is crazy. This connection and alignment, this is just so in sync. One of my personal practices that I love to do, though, is a releasing and invoking practice using water, where, say, for example, it was Libran energy. I will either do myself or work with someone else to hold a glass of water and release all of the lower grade Libran energies in it. So laziness, indecisiveness, unreliability, superficiality, manipulation into this water, pour it down the sink, and then take another glass that's actually moon charged water and then put into the water all the things that I want to bring into my life and drink it. And I found that really quite powerful too. Water during moon is just the most powerful element to be working with, because it does, water is so in sync with our emotions anyway, and the moon can then supercharge it so that we're actually ingesting it as well too. So that's just a personal one that I love. But for me at the moment, with the transition we're going through, I'm aware my son is very indecisive at the moment. And so I've got to do the flip of that and be the really good listener who's giving him all of the different perspectives that parents can see and then analyze them down into which is the best priority. So, yeah, I think it's very much that awareness that brings us, that then gives you the power to be able to say in everyday life, how can I utilize this as a resource to help me through this situation?
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Carney. And it's just, I love how everybody has these simple ways of being able to tune in. And so one of the things that I remind people is just being able to just take a second to just tune into your breath. Right? You take your breath everywhere that you go. Another thing is that people are like, oh, I don't have this crystal to use, or I don't have that essential oil to use. And it doesn't matter. Just visualize using that particular stone, or you visualize using, smelling the aroma of the flowers or of that essential oil. It doesn't have to be tactile. You can actually just use the power of your own self, of being able to use your mind. Like, it's mind over matter. And so it's really important for us to be able to use that. So thank you so much, ladies, for sharing that. So our final question is, in what ways have you seen traditional wisdom and modern approaches to anxiety management complement or challenge each other in your work?
Yeah, so I feel we're so disrespectful of cycles in society, right? Like we are constantly go that we don't allow that space to rest. And I find sometimes that in itself is creating the anxiety that we're then trying to manage because, and I know I'm guilty for this, where my coach is constantly going, you need to rest. And I'm like, no, I got to keep going. I got to keep going. I got to keep going. He's like, no, you need to rest or you're going to, and then sure enough, I'll get unwell or something like that. And it's just because I've run companies for so many years. That's my background. That's how I had to be all the time. It's why I ended up with anxiety, because I always felt like heightened all the time. And there was never a chance for me to step back. And I feel that trying to bring that into your own cycles in your own life. And I feel sometimes that's such a beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur and having your own business is you can actually look at your calendar and say, I feel like that's going to be intuitively, that's going to be a big week, like with the moon energy, with what's happening in the world, whatever's going on. And you can actually step back from that and teach your clients to do that too, because the more that we respect those cycles and honor it, the more powerful it is. And even I was in an interview the other week with a podcast host, and her son has autism spectrum disorder, but she couldn't figure out why he slept really well sometimes and why he didn't sleep very well at the other times. His sleep cycle was in perfect synchronicity with the moon cycles. So when it was a full moon, he didn't sleep. He slept a handful of hours. And when it was a new moon, he slept through the night. So it was, and then she realized her husband was doing that too. But it was only when she actually stepped back and take the time to reflect what was going on. Whereas everyone else was telling her, oh, there's a problem, take melatonin, let's do this. But it was actually just, that's his natural cycle. So she goes, I'm not like that. So I brace myself when it comes to the lack of sleep nights. But she goes, but it's also allowed me to have less anxiety around it and let me flow in with that. And I feel to be really tapping into who you are as a person rather than squishing it down with medication and things like that allows you to stay in tune, because all the medication does is numb you, and we've forgotten how to listen to our body. It doesn't matter if it's with the moon or whatever it might be, but we've forgotten how to do that because we've been so conditioned. You have pain, let's numb the pain, rather than question where the pains come from. And anxiety can act that way too. If you're feeling anxious all the time, it's time to step back in your life and going, what are these triggers and where am I feeling more anxious?
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Catherine. And Allie?
That was, yeah, on point. Yeah. So as I mentioned, I did mental health work, and even now, although I have Raven Moon Academy of Witchcraft and Spiritual Development, I very much balance it with the science side of things. And even my book, Shadow Alchemy, it's very much Jungian analytical psychology and shadow work, but from a very much more spiritual perspective. So it's essentially for witches, light workers, healers. And so I feel like I'm often having to explain to people that it's not separate. The modern approaches and sciences often were considered woo-woo and witchcraft and all of those things back in the day, and they work hand in hand. I'm very big on trying to avoid the medications if possible. They do have a part to play sometimes, but I feel that they're just handed out willy-nilly. It's so much easier. Oh, just take this pill and go forget about it, as opposed to maybe using it short term if need be, whilst you heal and work with the cycles and the moon and figure out what's going on underneath all of the symptoms, what the underlying cause is. But I think working hand in hand, looking at what our ancestors did. My ancestors on my mother's side were from a place called Lake Baikal, Siberia. They were shamans. And so I've looked very deep into that side of things, and a lot of what they did and taught out in the middle of nowhere is being brought back into practice today because it works. Chinese medicine, which is something I've gone back to, works. It's not profitable for the powers that be in society, so it's shunned and it's pushed aside and it's quackery and woo whatever. But yeah, it all works hand in hand, and I think we just really need to look at what works for us individually as a person and not always just try and take the easy route. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thanks so much, Allie. And I think that is such a key, is working hand in hand. So Tywanah, what about you?
Just Priestess Allie, I agree that medication is overused in some cultural traditions, in some countries. When someone would be considered bipolar or schizophrenic in the US, they become the tribe leader because they can see in different dimensions at the same time. So the elders take them off and teach them how to use those gifts so that they can come back and then be the tribe leader. And when I read that, I refused the medication. They forced me to take it while I was there. But when I came home, I wasn't taking it anymore. I knew that me being Irish, Native American, and West Indian, that none of my ancestors would have ever dreamed of putting the things that are in that medication in their bodies. And since they use me as a channel, literally, my mother decided to channel during my class yesterday. That was fun. Yeah, that was fun. At the end of me teaching Parenting the Inner Child, Mom came through, but they can't use my body if I have all that yuck in it. And I want them to be able to talk and come forth and give people messages of hope. Sometimes people are just waiting to hear that one word that maybe I can't give them in my 3D form, but my spicy Leo sun rising and sun, moon, and rising mother, she can jump in and give that message. So I have started to see someone who practices herbalism. I had a horrible reaction to a medication, and this is making me want off of everything that they give me. I'm an epileptic, so I do have to take one, but horrible reaction. 60 pounds of water weight in 5 days. Yes. Went to the ER, couldn't even put my shoes on, had to wear my slippers. My grandmother, who sits at that table, was like, "Are you leaving the house like that?" That's not what I taught you. I'm like, Nana, I can't fit in any shoes. I can go barefoot. And so they give you this pill. They wouldn't admit me and do the flush. And I went from being 166 pounds, confident, cute, worked so hard to keep my weight at a certain space, to eating vegetable soup every night. So I didn't gain another pound. I didn't add to it. And my doctor throwing pills at me. And finally, I met her here. She's a delightful woman. Her name is Charlotte, and Charlotte Mitchell. And she went to Asia to study herbs. And when I tell you, guys can't tell, but my face, my shoulders, everything from here to below my breast, water gone. I was like a couple of months ago. Everything from the knees below, water gone. I went from walking only, literally taking my trash out on the phone with my best friend, crying because the pain was so bad just to get across the parking lot to the trash can. The pain was indescribable. And I've been in pain 20 years. I'm a pain baby. But it hurt so bad because my toes were swollen. The bottoms of my feet were swollen. My ankles were swollen. Everything was swollen. And so I've turned to natural medicine, and it's working.
Yeah.
And yes, it may seem a little more expensive or a little more pricey, but I would much rather spend $125 to buy these supplements and vitamins and eat a certain way than to continue to poison myself and not get any results. So that's the way I see modern medicine. I don't really have any respect for modern medicine, not in the US. And because I worked for White House appointees, I don't know what's going on, and that makes it worse.
Thanks, Tywanah. And Carney, what about you?
I think I might need that number 20. Something, yeah, I've lots of lymphatic issues. I find it really interesting, even the concept of anxiety, because to me, as a complex trauma therapist, the minute I know someone has anxiety, I'm immediately looking for where have they been unsafe in their life? Where have they felt like they weren't safe, and how was that coming up? One of the greatest challenges I think we face at the moment is that people slip into separation and are so disconnected without actually having an awareness that they're disconnected and that they're in separation. And that's where I think traditional medicine and tribal medicine has such a huge impact, because it really is all about what are the things that we can do to bring this person back into a center of wholeness. The interesting thing is, if I reflect on my life, I broke a radial head about 15 years ago on my elbow. Without modern medicine, I wouldn't have survived. So I've had steel plates put in my elbow. I needed the modern medicine for that to happen. I also have had 4 children that I wouldn't have survived the births of had it not been for modern medicine. But when I came out of the surgery, they gave me one temazepam tablet that sent me off my tree, and I couldn't connect with spirit anymore. And in the end, I said I would rather be in pain than disconnected with spirit, because that's my lifeblood. Like, I can't have that taken out of my life. I had 5 people sending me Reiki healing for 3 months afterwards. Didn't feel an ounce of pain, slept like a baby most of the day. I didn't actually end up needing the pain meds, and I've got a pretty high pain tolerance anyway. So I think there are times that there is a blend of both. I'm also on Avapro medication. I need that to survive. But, there are some medicines that I know are absolute poison for my body, absolute poison. Sugar being one of them, and we don't even talk about that. I think there's an incredible push of back to basics at the moment, and that's really exciting. I've moved to a house 2.5 years ago that is so much like my grandparents. It's insane. I know my grandma aligned this house for me. It's got the same light switches, the same 10-foot ceilings. It's got a porch out the front. And I know that I'm here to learn whatever it was that she didn't learn. And there's a huge ancestral healing that's going down. Modern medicine won't help me heal that part of myself, but it will help me stay in the here and now through the blood pressure medication so that I can do it. So I think there is a balance between the two, but I know when I broke 3 ribs a couple of years ago, I was just so dismissed in the modern medicine realm. The doctor that I kept going back to again and again, he couldn't even remember that I'd been to see him. Now, he would ask me each time, "What are you here for?" I'm like, how do you forget someone who's had three broken ribs? Like, it's not like I'm the kind of person who doesn't make an impact. I just thought that was really funny. For me, I'm also using a lot of oils at the moment too. Oils hit the nervous system within 30 seconds. And there are some absolutely brilliant oils that can shift anxiety really quickly. So there's something that I'm finding as a go-to with a lot of the people I work with. And the one I'm favouring the most at the moment is an oil called Melissa. Melissa is the oil of light, and it brings all of the illusions to the surface so that you can see the forest for the trees. But yeah, I think there's a place for modern medicine, but as a number of the people have said on the panel today, it's not something that it would never be my first go-to, never. There are many things that I would try before I ended up down the pathway of modern medicine, although I need my blood pressure medication until I resolve the other parts of myself that cause me to be overweight and hold fluid. And once I've got those under control, I probably won't need it anymore.
Beautiful. I love that. And I love how you guys have all talked about having that balance and really knowing the different things that you need. And so I know that for me, when I go to the hospital for to urgent care for anything, is that I'm very first thing that comes out of my mouth is I'm very sensitive to medication. So they have to be very careful about what it is that they give me and how much they give me. And my first experience with understanding that was when I had my first son, is that I had an emergency C-section. They brought me out. They gave me medication for pain as soon as I was out of surgery. And I don't remember the first 3 days of my son's life because I was so heavily medicated that I had absolutely no idea. And the only reason that I even was able to have a shift was because there was something else that was going on in the OB ward, and they were late giving me medication. And so I was able to become a little bit more lucid. And I had talked to my girlfriend and said, "Hey, when are you guys coming up to see me?" And she's like, "Really, I did come up and see you. I even brought you pictures from the first time that we came up and seen you." And it was like, "What?" And so then when the nursing staff came back in, I'm like, "No more." So yeah, very, very careful as to, so when I do go up, it's like very careful as to letting them know that I'm very sensitive to medication. And if they do have to give me medication for some reason or other, then it has to be very, very closely monitored and very careful as to how much that they give me, because I know. And so essential oils is definitely my go-to. I have an entire shelf full of essential oils in my trailer. And so, yeah, I'm loaded full of essential oils. If you need any, you can probably come over. I probably got that. I probably have that one. So now we are just coming to a close. And so what I want to do is take a minute to, first of all, thank you all for being on this panel. And especially during Mercury retrograde, where things did not align exactly the way we had planned. But that really takes us back into that whole shift of patterns, right? So we needed to align exactly the way that we needed to, as much as it caused many of us anxiety as it was not happening the way that it needed to. And so what I want to do is just go around the floor and just have you share a little bit about what do you have to offer for people who are listening of something that you're doing or offering that might be beneficial for them to connect with you. Catherine, do you want to start?
Yeah, thanks, Rollie. So I currently have a free 30-minute coaching and or healing call, depending whatever you need. I just hold space and see what comes through, but there's no sales attached. I want to emphasize that. I generally just want to help you along on your journey. And you can have a look at that. You can book it through my website, which is willowhealing.org, or you can go check me out on Instagram, which is willowhealingsh. And then there's a link through my bio as well. And I also offer free oracle card readings. That's on there too.
Beautiful. And all of the links for those of you who are listening, Sophia and her team have everything listed in the description. So you'll be able to, if you weren't able to catch that quickly enough, that it's definitely going to be there for you to find. And so Allie, what about you?
Hi. So I actually have a low cost entry level offer at the moment, which is all about getting in touch with yourself and reactivating those parts that have laid dormant so that you can really step into your power and take charge of your life. Yeah. So I've decided to offer that as a kind of aside to my diploma and my certification courses, just because everyone's doing it tough at the moment. So I want everybody to have access to healing and activations. So yeah, you can get in touch with me through Facebook, which everything will be posted.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Allie. And Tywanah?
I am offering a 1-hour strategy session so we can see how we can get you out of your pain points and into your power. I will provide that link for Sophia, but it's blackbutterflygoddess.com. You can send me a message through there. And I am Black Butterfly Goddess on every single social media platform, as well as Tywanah EVETTE. So if you need to look for me, just send me a message on any of the avenues. I will be happy to honor that gift.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And Carney?
Mercury retrograde's having fun with me again. I am offering a complimentary 1.5 hour chat in relation to inner child healing and rescue work. I'll send that information through because I don't think I provided anything when I first signed up. I also have a community page called Mystic Moon Magic, spelt with MAGICK. And I'm in the process of changing my name. So everything was Carney Kamala, but I've just moved into Dragonflight Alchemy. So none of that is up and running as yet. It's all in the pipeline. But we'll get there. Yeah. Thank you so much. This is awesome.
Thank you so much. So one of the things that I do want to invite everyone to is through Sacred You. I do moon medicine circles on Friday evening, my time, which is Eastern time, at 6 p.m. or it is 8 a.m. I believe in Australia, and on Saturday morning. I invite you to come and join me with that. And we're going to turn this over to Sophia. I believe she is still there. There she is.
Yes, I am, Rollie. I have been listening here and taking wonderful notes, and oh my God, what a great and informative panel discussion this has been. I am so grateful for you all, so thank you. Thoroughly agree with you, Catherine, about hugging trees and walking barefoot. It is amazing. And Tywanah, yes, I have seen the transformation that you've been through in the last couple of months, and it is incredible. And I'd also give a shout out to one of our members, Charlotte Mitchell, is an incredible herbalist and things. And thank you everyone for Alessandra and Carney for your first panel with us. It has been great. I've taken so many notes. I'm looking forward to watching the recording. I'm looking forward to watching the replay. So thank you. Now, and Rollie, you mentioned your tribe, which we will be putting the links down below. So thank you for that. For everyone who is out there listening, do come and check out Rollie's tribe as shared on the dates. And if you are a member, which you can of course join, sacredyou.love, come and join us. You can join us for free, /join free. Join the village and you get to see Rollie's tribe live when we go live in the village. Plus, we have our beautiful Black Butterfly Goddess who runs the Psychic Development Tribe. Psychic Essence Collective tribe, I should say. Tywanah, would you like to tell us a little bit about that and the wonderful magic, the moon magic and the moon medicine that you go through in that too?
Absolutely. So I am the leader for the Psychic Essence Collective. We have a lot of fun. I've gone from baby basics of protection, making sure you're shielded and things like that, because you don't want to just run into the spirit realm without protection, to tarot and oracle and divination and all these beautiful tools that we have at our disposal to speak to spirit and to those who have crossed over, to give people hope for those who were lost without their loved ones. So it's an amazing tribe with great women in it. I'm not just saying that because one of them is my best friend. I am saying it because they are amazing. And yes, we will be doing moon work coming up as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And again, click on the links below and check out the Psychic Essence Collective. Come and join us. And Catherine is also the host of a different tribe, but brings, the energy. We all get affected by the energy of the moon, especially entrepreneurs. And Catherine is the host of our Empowered Entrepreneurs tribe. So Catherine, would you like to tell us a little bit about that? And how does the moon energy affect us in business?
I think we've covered that today, that it really have to be honoring your cycle and that sort of thing. But the whole idea behind Empowered Entrepreneurs, which is the space we're creating, is somewhere that you can come and share what you are working on, what you want to keep working towards, and get some insights and inspiration to keep working. Because sometimes when we're going through these harder periods in time because of astrology, whether the moon, Mercury retrograde, life is falling apart, you're going through some sort of time passage or rite of passage, it's really important to honor that and find a way to still keep your business going, because that is going to support you long term, and you still need to find a way to show up. That is what this space is all about, having that support, having guidance, getting some insights from everyone else is there as well as myself. And there's some really powerful intuitives that show up. So you never know what little gold nugget you're going to take away, or something that you'll come through for yourself. That's at 9 a.m. on Mondays, Australian Eastern Standard Time. I don't know what that converts to. I'm terrible with time zones. I let the apps tell me. So yeah, hopefully you want to come join a space.
Absolutely, and thank you. And again, for everyone who's listening, click on the links. All the links for these amazing women are below all these videos. So do check them out and come and join Sacred You. Come and join us for all our wonderful panel discussions and wisdom circles coming up. Next week, our beautiful Black Butterfly Goddess is facilitating her own panel on rebuilding after ruin, healing from abuse and finding your true self. So we're greatly looking forward to that one. And again, for everyone who is here, I've been honoured, and thank you for joining us for today. Thank you ever so much.